Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start on the wacky fruit. So I'm going to open up my first template. So I'm going to say File, Open. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my coconut here, and I'm going to do the coconut and the orange together. So I can go ahead and open both of those files. I can hold Control and then just select individually both of those files. So I'm going to go ahead and open those up. And again, you're welcome to use your own pieces of fruit, or you can use the provided ones. Either way is fine by me. This is just some more practice with clipping mask and layers and all that good stuff. So we're going to be doing similar to the impossible shape, where we break something up into different pieces, divide our picture up into some different pieces, and then use a clipping mask. But instead of the magic wand, we're going to use the quick selection. Now, why is that? This coconut, it looks like, oh, but the coconut is white in the inside, right? Isn't it just white? We can select it. Well, here's the problem. Even though it's white, there's shadows and highlights, right? So there's a whole range of different whites values here. And some of these white values, the shaded parts particularly, might be a little bit too close to the lighter brown portions of the coconut. So the magic wand might have some trouble. So we're going to go ahead and just use the quick selection. So the quick selection is going to select based on the outline. And I think that's perfect because I want to get this portion in here. Okay, I can't use the ellipse because it's not a perfect circle. So I'm going to go ahead and use the quick selection, all right, to select. Now the quick selection tool is stored in the same spot as the magic wand. So depending on how you have your tool set up, if you have them collapsed into two, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 if you count across like you're reading a book, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you have them in a single column, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I need to click and hold, and you might already have it on the magic wand because that's what we were using. Make sure to change it to the quick selection. Okay, and then remember, just like our other tools, I've got some different menu stuff up here. Okay, you can change your brush size up here, but it's much easier to just change your brush size by using the brackets on your keyboard. Okay, so I can make them bigger and smaller. So the magic wand, you can click, so you can do a few clicks, or you can like kind of paint, okay? So just depending on your image, either one will work. Let's say you get a little bit too much. Oh my gosh, I got that. I didn't want it. You can change it to the minus by holding ALT on your keyboard, or you can click up here. I like to do ALT on my keyboard, the Alt key, because then it only temporarily changes while I'm holding my Alt key, and then it automatically switches back to adding to my selection as soon as I'm done holding the Alt key. You can see that changed. I'm holding my Alt key, now I'm not. I'm holding my Alt key, it changes to a minus. I'm not holding it, it's back to a plus. All right, so pretty simple selection. Photoshop does a great job selecting this. And now I'm going to go up to select and mask so I can just see what Photoshop has selected and refine this a little bit more. So I'm going to open this select and mask. Again, you can change your view depending on your photo to see what is the best view. I'm going to go ahead and keep it here on overlay. If you want to, you can change that though. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down, and I want to make my edges smoother for this selection, so I'm going to go ahead and bump up this smoothing, and I think this black will really let you see how smooth that is. So you can see here, if I don't have any smoothing on, it's pretty jaggedy, and if I do keep my smoothing on, it's much more smooth. Okay, there's also radius you can play with. You can play with smart radius. If your selection ever hasn't, if you need like kind of a soft edge, you can choose this feather. You can see that makes it kind of a blurry selection on those edges. So again, we don't need that for this, but this is just something to know. Let's see, contrast, how sharp do I want this? Okay, there we go. That's nice and smooth now. And again, I'm going to change it back to that red view so I can actually see what I'm smoothing. Shift edge, so that's going to allow you to make it go slightly inside or outside of your selection. So let's say if I shift edge all the way this way, okay, versus shift edge all the way that way, it made it smaller. It's kind of hard to see when it makes it bigger, and then it makes it smaller. I'm just going to keep it at 0. I'm not going to shift the edge at all, okay? And I'm going to change this back to the red. I just think the black is easy to see what I'm doing. Okay. All right, I like this. I'm going to say okay. All right, now this portion, I can do like the magic wand where I say plus new layer, edit, fill, color. So that's one way of breaking my image up into another piece, right? Oopsies, escape. That's one way to break my image into another piece, and I'm going to hit Control D to deselect. Another way is just to copy and paste. So I'm going to go back, Control Z. All right, I'm going to go back. So here I am with my selection. I've already done my select and mask. Okay, you can see I've already done my smoothing. Oh no, I haven't done my smoothing. I guess it undid it. So I'll go ahead and add my smoothing. A little bit of contrast here. Say okay. All right, so I've got my selection. So you can do the plus, edit, fill, color, or you can just copy and paste. So I'm going to hit copy, Control C, and that is, again, Control C for copy, and then paste is Control V. And you can see it's created a new layer. It's pretty hard to see because it's the coconut and it's white, but I promise you that's there, and I will show you by moving it. So you can see it has taken this and created a new layer. So again, that's just Control C, Control V. So I'll go back, and again, I'm pushing Control C, Control V. It's pasted it onto a new layer. All right, so now I'm ready to go get my orange. So I'm going to file open. I'm going to get my orange slice. I think I already opened that actually. Here it is. And I'm ready to put this in. So for this, I don't need to use quick selection or magic wand. I can just copy the whole thing. So I'm going to say Control A, Control C, Control V, Control T, and I can change the size. Okay, if I wanted to get real fancy, I don't need to do this, but right click, clipping mask. Okay, I can move this around. I can still Control T it. Okay, if you wanted to, you could cut out your orange beforehand. So if there was some reason that you needed to have this cut out, the magic wand or quick selection, either of those would work. So let me just show you. Let's just pretend I wanted to cut this out first. I'm going to actually click contiguous, which means touching. So I'm going to select all the white parts that are touching. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. And whoopsies, hold on. Cancel. I need to add another layer here. All right, so I'm going to unlock it. I made another layer below, and then I'm going to hit delete. So if you wanted to, you could, cut out your orange. Control A, Control C, Control V, Control T. So you can see, but that's not really necessary for this project. I just want to show you, just in case you need to do that because you decide to use different fruit or something, okay? But in this case, either is going to work because we're just using a clipping mask. So I'm going to throw that away, and I'm going to right click, create clipping mask. Okay, and there's my orange. So I just wanted to show you it's not necessary to cut it out because this is still going to work. All right, so my orange is mostly lined up, but if you've stopped paying attention, go ahead and look up here because this is going to be brand new. If your object isn't quite the same size, like I've matched the angle, right? When I selected my orange photo, I tried to select something that was matching, but Control T, when you Control T, everything is kind of scaling proportionally. If you want to stretch something or make it wonky, hold the Shift key. So we're going to hold Shift on our keyboard, and when I do that, you can see now I can stretch this all around, okay? So that's really useful because I might need to get these edges a little bit different, okay? Something else you can do, so that's Shift, will allow you to like scale it without worrying about keeping it in proportion. Another thing you can do is you can individually tweak each corner by holding the Control key. So you'll notice when I do Shift, the whole thing is kind of moving around. When I do Control, I can individually, you can see that I don't have a square anymore. I'm like kind of stretching just certain edges. Okay, so I'm stretching this like so. I can stretch over here, etc., and then get it really nice and lined up exactly how I want. Okay, and you can use your little arrow keys to nudge, but you'll see now my bounding box is no longer a square. And I love it, so I'm going to hit enter, and I'm done with this one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and open up the next one. These next ones, guys, are going to be much faster because I've already explained how to use the tool, right? So for the next one, we're going to get my kiwi and my watermelon. All right, so I'm opening up these two. Here's my kiwi. I'm going to go back to my quick selection. Select my kiwi. Okay, my kiwi, a little tricky. It got a little bit too much. It got some of this brown portion, so I'm going to hold Alt on my keyboard. and paint along those areas that I don't want. Zoom in is Control plus. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of these portions along here. Just going to try and click and see if Photoshop will figure it out that I don't want these. So I'm holding Alt, clicking to get rid of those little brown portions, and that's looking pretty good now. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to say Select and Mask. All right, again, I'm going to put my smoothing on because I want a nice smooth selection. Maybe I'll bump up this contrast a little bit. Okay, my contrast and my smoothing to get a really nice selection. I can just double check what it looks like. Yep, that's pretty good on there. It doesn't look all jaggedy and pixely, right? All right, so I'm going to go back to my overlay. I'm going to say OK. And then I'm just going to copy paste, Control C, Control V. And there it is on its own layer. Okay, you don't need to move it around, but I just wanted to show you. It's definitely there because I know it's hard to see this little preview. All right, so it's there. Now I'm going to get my watermelon. Control A, Control C, Control V, Control T. All right, you know what? I want to show you. You don't even need to Control T it before you do the clipping mask. I can right click, create clipping mask, and it goes in there right away. All right, I am going to Control T it though. So I'm zooming out, Control minus to zoom out. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and start shrinking my watermelon down. And I think I'm going to change the angle. Let me zoom back in here a little bit. And let's see. How much of this do I want in here? I'm going to hold, I'm probably going to hold Shift here in a moment so I can kind of stretch this a little bit. So I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to drag up this area. Just kind of elongate that. Maybe bring this side a little bit. And again, if I want to, I can hold Control if there's any of these individual edges I need to move. So again, Control T. I'm going to hold Control, and if I need to stretch any of these individual edges, I can do that. You don't need to, but if you'd like to, there we go. I'm happy with that. Hit Enter. Okay, and then this one's done. All right, I'm going to open my last template. Okay, so this is my oranges with my pomegranates. So I'm going to, I actually need 3 different images for this one. So I'm going to get all 3 of these, open those. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and select this portion, and then I'm also going to select this portion. So I'm going to first get this section, little segment of the orange, select and mask. Okay, I'm going to put my smoothing up. Smooth that selection. I'm going to bump up my contrast a little bit. I like how that selection looks. Okay, and then I'm going to copy paste. All right, let's go ahead and get my pomegranate. This one I'm going to bring in, Control A, Control C, Control V, Control T. Now, one thing about this pomegranate, take a look up here. The angle's not matching, right? It's like flip-flopped, mirror image. So to flip it, I can always like rotate my image around, right? I can do that, but it's still the angle's not really matching, right? So I can right click, Control T, right click, and I can flip it, flip horizontal. And you can see now it's lined up, the angle seems to match. All right, I'm gonna right click, create clipping mask, and then I'm gonna still Control T and move this around a little bit. So I need to make maybe this a little bit bigger. I think I'm going to hold Shift and maybe stretch this up a bit, stretch that down a bit, and I'm pretty happy now with how that selection looks, so I'm going to leave that. All right, and then I'm going to do my next segment. And guys, these have watermarks because they're just, you know, this is just a sampler, so just a practice activity. I'm going to go back to my background image, and now I'm going to select this portion. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, select and mask. Okay, I'm going to put that, bump that smoothing up. Maybe this much is good. That looks pretty good. Bump my contrast up a bit. Okay. All right, I like it. Control C, Control V. There's my orange segment. All right, I'm done with this one. I'm just going to hit close. All right, here's my pomegranate. Control A, Control C, Control V. Right click, create clipping mask. Oop, it's way too big. I'm going to Control T. That pomegranate, and I'm going to really shrink that down. So I'm going to shrink that down, reposition it, and that looks like it's probably a better size. then I'm going to hold shift on my keyboard and maybe stretch this up a little bit. And like so, and I'm happy with that, so I'm going to leave that. Okay? When you're ready to save, you're going to say File, Save As. Okay, save on your computer. And you're going to look for your student drive. You're going to look for your student drive. Okay? So click on your student drive. And then, you know, you're going to call it like orange pomegranate, watermelon kiwi, or whatever it is you want. You know, your name, put your name on there for your sampler. So you're going to save it once as a Photoshop. And then you can also click Save a Copy. And what you're going to turn in is Save a Copy, the JPEG. So I'm going to hit Save a Copy. And I'm going to go to JPEG right here. Okay, and then that's what I'm going to save. I'm going to hit Save. And then make sure you drag this up to maximum, and then you're going to hit OK. All right, I'm not going to hit OK because I already have enough stuff saved on my laptop. All right, but that's it for this project. So just to recap, you're using 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth tool, quick selection. If your tools are collapsed like so with the little arrow, 1, 2, 3, 4, quick selection. You're opening up your images. Start with the coconut because that's just the easiest one. Again, you're going to select a portion of the image that you want to have selected. Go up to Select and Mask. We're going to bump up our smoothing. We're going to bump up the contrast just a tad. We're going to say OK, and then we're going to hit Copy Paste, Control C, Control V. That's going to create a new layer that you can then clip your image into. To select the entire image, Control A, Control C, Control V, Control T, right click, create clipping mask. Like so, okay? And then once it's inside there, you can of course move stuff around. You can drag it around, you can hold shift. You can also hold control to individually move the different edges around, etc. Okay? All right, I'll go ahead and post this video for you.